how does one kill art? How does one kill an idea and even just inspiration and your mind's ability to produce art? How does one kill it? We will get into it in just a second. This is part 3 of how to make art. It's a 16-week course. We're on week 3. Check out the first one and the second one. On the second one, you have some homework. Just go check those out. It talks about limiting beliefs around art, the first one, and then the second one gives you some homework, some new ways to think about art. And now we're going to talk about the death of art and what kills it. I think I was about to save it for the end, but actually it is just important to know what to avoid as to know what to seek out. So before we get started, check out everything in the description. My TikTok, which is related to the homework, if you've watched part 1 and 2. My fiction book, my poetry book, everything is down below. And my podcast on Spotify. I have a podcast episode here once a week on Mondays, and on Fridays I have one there. And then I have a couple videos in between on YouTube. It's so much content for you to consume. Okay, let's get started. Don't make art to produce a life that no longer invites art. I love this example about comedians who first have this topics and range and just get people, and then they get famous, and then all of their jokes are about planes, like airplanes, because there's so much on airplanes. And I think this is the interesting thing with art is people who are really talented at it had just had so much practice. I've had 10 years of writing beforehand, and so you don't actually know how to produce it without the innate want. It's a very emotional thing, so studying it has been quite interesting for me. But the things that kill it, you're always so surprised because you'll have on and off seasons, and I do think to a degree that's normal, but you shouldn't prolong an off season if possible. So what kills art? Routine is the number one killer of art. Now, there needs to be a routine, there needs to be structure in life, because my saying is, if you want to die, you won't produce much art because you'll be dead. And there is, I'm not a masochistic, but there is a depressing streak to art. So like, really, no, that one must sometimes not sacrifice art, but understand the concepts within reason. Like, don't purposefully make yourself depressed to produce art. Don't purposefully have no sleep routine to produce art. There are things that are then, if you're not alive, you can't make art. So don't make that in that direction. And I know that's an extreme example, but if you don't feel like living, if you don't have energy, then it also just doesn't work. Sadness takes energy. It's quite an effort to be sad. No, but yes, people. Yes. Oh, how do you fix this? Routine you fix by breaking out of routine, doing cool things, doing new things, trying out different sports, chess, weird workouts, just so you have new things that are being sparked. But yeah, within reason. There is no art if there's no artist, so do not take that number one thing too far, because there is a reason for routine. Number 2, yes, people who love all of your ideas. You can hear this a lot in albums. I think every album from a great artist is great because their voice is great and because it's good. But you do hear this when someone was quite starting out. All of their songs were different. They had up-tempo, they had slow. There was no mold they were trying to put on. There was no persona they were keeping the thread going with. They're not like performing, which is funny for a singer or for someone who's producing an album. But there's something really personal with the first couple of albums that sometimes after success, the second album after success of the first album tends to be worse, because they have people who are yes people, they have fans, they have people who love everything they do, and there's an amount of friction that art loves. There's an amount of back and forth. That's why sometimes a band is better than an individual artist. It's not because the artist isn't talented, but it's because there's so many talented people in one room and there's this friction going back and forth, and that usually the best ideas then survive and the rest are kind of thrown to the side. Number 3, numbness and prolonged neutrality. I think that's one of the reasons why AI will never come from my job. Because I've said this before, I'll say it again, because I think it's interesting. What makes writing and music, but especially writing, now we're talking about writing, so cool is the emotion of it. And if you give AI emotion, they're unproductive. They're just as productive as a human. And if you don't give them emotion, they can't write like a human. You cannot put flaws on a Barbie doll, it looks weird. And if you put flaws on a Barbie doll, it no longer is a Barbie doll. That is what AI is, which I love. It's great that it's that way. And even if they then do get an emotion, let's say they will, okay, well then you're just as productive as me, I'm sorry. Anyways, so prolonged numbness. There, I'm sure, are instances and exceptions to this specific rule, but I would say for the most part, there's emotionality in art, and there's care in art, and there's pain because you care in art, but there is very, very little. I would say none. As far as I have seen, read, consumed, there is none, but I'm not, there might be an exception. There's very, very little neutrality in art, very little. And if you've become numb, you're not neutral because numbness is a reaction to too much feeling, I would assume, or not feeling feelings not being beneficial, and so you kind of turn it off. But it is so unproductive in art. It is so unproductive to just be like, I don't care, I don't like, no, it doesn't work with art. So I don't know how you're gonna, if that's an issue you have, how you're gonna deal with it, but you're gonna have to figure out a way how to not be numb and how to unnumb yourself. And maybe it's simply by giving yourself permission to feel happy and to be really happy when you're happy, to really be in love when you're in love, to really be there when you're there. Because either you're scared to be happy fully and you caveat happiness with 10,000 things, and so you never feel a really low because you never felt a high, or you don't let yourself be sad, and so happiness is quite difficult. You have to see where you start. I would start with happiness. It's a little bit easier. Watch a comedy show, fall in love without 10,000 caveats to the sentence. And yeah, well, if you can fall in love, I think that's the best way to make art. It's the easiest way to make art. It's the easiest way to start with any art piece. However, it's not, you can't just be like, and now I shall fall. Even when you walk, purposefully falling is not, it's not the same as falling actually. Purposefully failing is not the same. So there's this sector of things that if you do them on purpose, they don't fill their purpose, so to say. So take with that what you will. Fear of living. Fear of living makes no art. No art. If you're scared to love because you might lose, I have a poem about that in my upcoming book, so go check that out when it's then out. Scared to try because you may fail, like all of these like fears, they don't produce art. Neutrality does not produce art for the most part. It doesn't. It produces facts, it produces science, it produces other things, but neutrality for the most part produces the weirdest art. You can even see that with songs where someone is clearly not as mad as they're pretending to be in the song, and so the song feels kind of off. I don't know if you felt that before, but you feel that. You're like, I know you were heartbroken, but you were not that heartbroken, and I feel that it's off because the way you're describing it is not the way someone would in that situation. It's too neutral. And humans are not neutral. We have tons of biases running amok at all times. All of our emotions are always there. They even said that, I think, a judge or something, depending on if they had breakfast or not, judges differently, like something like that. I heard that from Alex O'Connor. I might be quoting him wrong, but something along the lines of that. And I think it's so true that, like, you're just completely emotional all the time. Not emotional as in crying all the time, but your emotions are running the show. So when you try to be robotic, it looks weird. It is like, I guess we're keeping going with the Barbie example. It's like when humans try to look like Barbies, like really try to look. Not like, oh, they just happen to look quite similar, but they get like all of these surgeries to look exactly like a Barbie. That also feels really weird. We also don't like when you don't have, like, we don't mind Botox, but we hate when we can't tell facial expressions, because that's a huge communication vehicle through humans. So, yeah. Do not Botox your art. Okay, let's continue. Seeing yourself in third person for too long. Your art is made through your own mind. It is made through your own mind. It is not made through other people's minds. It's not made on other people's opinions. It's not what they would like. It's not what they would dislike. It's you. And you are then so caught up in their mind, and it's useless for art. It is useless. You're not them. It is your point of view. It is your feelings. It is your honesty. Art, above all, is honest. And if you're not honest, and you don't know anybody else's honesty, not really. I mean, to a degree, I'm not like, don't trust anybody. I'm just speaking in the realm of art, okay? Please don't. Art is not translatable to almost any other subject. I don't want scientists to base their scientific methods on how to produce art. Please do not just go with your feelings on any big subject like that. Not that art is not a big subject, but science is much more applicable to real life and translatable into learning, into school, into this, into that, than art. Art is an entity of its own subject, and it is not translatable. You should not run your life the way you run art. You shouldn't. There's a reason poets die young, and it is not because poets are extremely physically... It's not a physical labor, okay? We just really do not know how to live life. We just know how to describe it, okay? And being extremely self-centered, it's the dumbest thing to do for art. You should be number one, but there should be other numbers. That is my philosophy on selfishness. And I've talked about this too, there's directional advice and there is destinational advice, and be selfish is directional advice. If you are too selfless, telling you to be selfish brings you back to being normal. And if you're too selfish, telling you to be selfless brings you back to normal. But for the most part, you want to be number one, but there should be other people. Because most of art is about other people and you, but your opinion on it. Most of art. Not all of art, most of art. And other people also spark conversations, they spark new ways of looking at things. I've had so many poems that are inspired by an interesting conversation, by a story I was told, by other things that made my mind relate to something new and think of something new from that. It was like a springboard. Now, I don't think you should go meet people with the intention of making art. There's a very fine line between I'm meeting people and maybe there's art there, and I need to just fall in love so I can make art. I need to go out so I can get a poem. There feels honestly something kind of not artsy about the seeking out of that in that way. But yeah, fear of happiness. Happiness and sadness are codependent. It is contrast. You cannot see the color white without the color black. You cannot see something if it is everywhere. There needs to be contrast. I mean, you can see white without black, of course, but you need contrast in life to feel something really, to see something really, to believe in something really. And if you have a fear of happiness, then you have a fear of sadness. And if you have a fear of sadness or you don't feel sadness enough, there is very little art that can be produced. What is a fear of happiness? It is when the second you are happy, you're scanning the world for something to go really, really bad, and you're like, oh, bad things happen, then 3, or something good happens, and then you cause a fight. It is this seeking out of bad experiences that is so detrimental, and it sounds counterintuitive. You would say, no, isn't it good to have a bad experience so you can write about it? It is like falling down on purpose and then getting back up. It's not the same experience as you try, you fail, and then you get back up. That feels different. That takes different, not muscles, but different movements, different adaptation. One takes flexibility and one doesn't. And it's the same with art. You should not seek out sadness very directly. It just doesn't work. And it's kind of, sadness should not be avoided, but it should not be seeked out. What does that mean? You should not be happy so you're not going to be sad, like the people who are so scared of happiness because they're so scared of sadness, so they're numb. But it also is not something that needs to be seeked out, like, where can I find my next sad heartbreak? Like, that's also just silly. And it is a natural inclination. It's so funny because you love art and you love making art, and then at some point you're like, okay, well, I need inspiration, so where's my next heartbreak? But it just doesn't work like that. And thank God. Imagine if poets could artificially fall in love so they could artificially be heartbroken. The world as we know it would be so bad off. Okay, and now on to homework. You're gonna love this homework, okay? We're revamping your concept of homework. I know you just said, get back, okay? Come on, you can do this. Okay, you're gonna make a list of your art killers and draw an arrow. Okay, I can demonstrate this. You can, so it's like list, then draw an arrow and then substitute. Smiley face. So, what you can use my list, but you definitely have your own list of things that make you numb. You can use my list and have spin-offs. So are there drinks that you drink to make you numb? Are there people you avoid that make you numb? When do you tend to be more self-centered, and how can you be more present? You take the list and then you substitute it. How do you show me this homework? Either you keep it to yourself and you can be so proud of yourself. I am already. Round of applause for writing down the homework, which you did. And if you want to share it with me, my TikTok's below. Make a TikTok, tag me in it, and I will react to it. I will stitch it. And I'm so excited to see all of your lists and to see your creativity slowly come out or develop. I think it's so interesting because when you start something, you need a start, an introduction, and then when you get more and more into it, you actually need a refresh, you need more knowledge. I've never studied art as much as I've done now. I've always just kind of produced it, which was really, really fun. But there is something comforting about understanding art a little bit and what kills it and what makes it. So yes, I'm really excited. You should follow all the things, buy all the books. I also have a guided journal to get to know yourself better, which obviously helps with art as well. And I'm so excited. I love this series and I hope you're loving it too. And if you have any comments, if you have any questions, leave it in the comments. I can still answer all of them, which is so nice.